Welcome to PDC Spotlight. I'm Ann Mangan with the Portland Development Commission. Today we're at the stunning mixed-use 12 West building, headquarters for Zimmer Gunsel Frasca Architects and designed by ZGF to lead platinum standards. That's leadership in energy and environmental design. 12 West also houses the Indigo, 17 floors of apartments and penthouses with green building amenities like bamboo hardwood floors, high-efficiency glass, and sustainable wool carpets. There are even wind turbines on the roof. We're going to hear more about that project later on when we talk with Jean Sandoval, a ZGF partner, and Mark Edlen of Girding Edlen Development, the nationally known real estate developer behind this project. But we'll set the stage for that conversation first with a perspective on Portland's growing reputation for green development and expertise, talking with Colin Sears, the clean tech industry liaison for the Portland Development Commission. So let's get started. In today's economy, the number one message we're hearing from Portlanders is jobs. And we're talking a lot about green jobs and Portland's strengths in clean technology. Our first guest today is Colin Sears, who's been with the Portland Development Commission for nearly 10 years, working with businesses that focus on energy efficiency, green development, and sustainable technologies. Colin, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Anne.
I know you and your colleagues at the PDC have been working a lot with businesses to create jobs, particularly within specific industries or clusters. So we want to talk a little bit about that industry cluster approach and your work with clean technology. But first, let's hear a little bit about you personally, since I know that you've gone from punk band drummer to an economic development guru in clean tech.
Well, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area and played music in the small music scene there, but I had always been involved in arts and music. Then I went to graduate school up further northeast and studied sustainable development. When I finished my master's degree, I was looking for a city that was vibrant, creative, had a lot of culture, but also was a leader in sustainability, pushing the boundaries, actually doing things. And Portland made the top of the list, moved here a decade ago, and I've been here ever since.
So let's talk a little bit about the clusters or the industries that the city and the Portland Development Commission have focused on. Maybe you could list them all and kind of talk about how we chose them?
Sure. We adopted an economic development strategy last year, and we decided we were going to hone in on 4 industry clusters: activewear, advanced manufacturing, software, and clean tech. And from that perspective, it really flipped the way we work. We are letting the industries drive our efforts and they help us hone our limited resources on what we can do to help create jobs within those 4 sectors. And those are big sectors, of course, but we have history with many of those sectors. Mm-hmm. As you know, activewear, we have Nike and Adidas here. Advanced manufacturing, Portland really grew as a city because of shipbuilding during the Second World War, and we've diversified that economy, and we have some major regional players here. We took an approach to hone in on our strengths, look out the next 5 or 10 years where the jobs are going to come from, and focus on those sectors, and that's what we've done.
So you're in an interesting one because you're focused on clean tech, but it seems like a lot of the green practices and efficiencies that the companies you work with focus on also play out in some of the other industries. So talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Economic development strategy looked at sustainability as the overarching principle or ethos of Portland and our region that would really move forward not just the clean tech sectors, but also advanced manufacturing, activewear, and to some extent software. And so a good example is in activewear, there are materials libraries throughout the world that are focused just on general materials for clothing, for fabrics and materials used in shoes and other apparel. We are going to develop here in Portland, and that's not my cluster, but an activewear materials lab that will be focused on sustainable materials, and that will really elevate us globally as being a leader in sustainable materials.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into clean technology. I know that you've split that larger idea into three, or I think it's three smaller segments of the market. So talk about that.
Let me talk about that. So green development is the one I'll talk about in more detail because that's what we're focused on a project here today that's green development. We're here sitting in a project, the Indigo, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But wind energy, we've had amazing job growth here. We had Vestas move to Portland about 10 years ago, around the time I moved here. They have their North American headquarters here. They have close to 400 jobs. We have one of their competitors who does wind development, Iberdrola. They're a Spanish company. They have their renewable headquarters here, renewable energy headquarters here in North America, and they have close to 500 jobs. And then many of their competitors have moved to Portland to harness the talent that's here, the knowledge, and the engineering expertise around wind development. So that's a great example of a cluster where a few companies set up shop or grow, and then everybody wants to be there where the activity is. Just as, if you're making a movie, where do you go? You go to Hollywood. If you're going to work in banking and you want to be in the capital, you're going to go to New York. So that's what clusters are about. And I'll talk about the Oregon Sustainability Center, which I think is a great example of a project where we're doing a triple net zero building. It will create all of its energy on site. It will use only the water generated on site. It will deal with all the waste generated on site. And we've looked at buildings throughout the world, and no one is doing something quite as aggressive. We have projects in France where they're doing energy created on site, but we don't have anyone who's just going that deep. And what we're doing is we'll be integrating locally produced products into the building. The design team is purely local. It's just a great example of pushing the boundaries. And then we hope to replicate that model and create several buildings which are using the same principles throughout Portland, throughout the region, and then we'll export that expertise throughout the world.
That's a huge project. You didn't mention quite where it is, and I'm wondering if maybe you could just talk a little bit about where it's hoped to be and where it is in its process, the Oregon Sustainability Center.
Sure. Well, during the summer of 2010, we'll be going into the design phase. So that'll be a 3 to 4 month design phase where we'll be tightening up the budget. The bonds will be sold this summer through the Oregon University system and the City of Portland. And we'll be moving forward with, it will be the first high-rise triple net zero building in the world. We are looking for, or moving forward, we hope, with a Living Building Challenge certification, which would certify after 1 year that we've met those objectives and that we are a triple net zero building. So we hope to break ground late this year or early 2011.
And that's on the PSU campus, right?
Correct. And the great thing about that project, it ties in another initiative, which is eco-districts. The eco-districts pilot project in Portland State, which we'll be seeing a quick video about later. It's OSC is one piece of the puzzle where you will have many buildings integrated with one another, sharing energy, sharing heating, cooling, of course, sharing water, and other systems. And it's a new way to approach energy, water, and waste management. And it's very innovative, it's cutting edge, and it actually, you talk about green, it will save green ultimately to the consumers because by sharing systems, it will reduce costs.
Well, thanks for the work you're doing, and thanks for being on the show today.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
If you'd like to follow more about Portland Development Commission and its work with industry development, you can visit the website at www.pdc.us/business. And if you want to learn more about clean tech here in Portland, that website is www.pdxcleantech.com. We've been talking about clean technology and green business. And another aspect of green development is the concept of eco-districts. Essentially, these are collaborations within a neighborhood or area involving partners like higher education, the city, citizens, and policymakers who share a broad commitment to improving that area's environmental performance. Here's a closer look at the concept.
The genesis of eco-districts really stemmed from the incoming mayor, Mayor Adams, had traveled to China. He had a lot of sort of developer interest in this community, talking to him about integrated neighborhood solutions. As he was coming into office, asked Posey to take lead in developing the eco-district strategy.
At a fundamental level, an eco-district is a framing strategy for a district or neighborhood scale community to get behind environmental performance improvements that will bring them greater community benefit and economic returns. We worked with the city and PDC to identify the 5 areas. They're the Lloyd District, Portland State University, North Macadam, the sort of north part of South Waterfront development, and then 2 in East Portland, Gateway and Lentz.
This is particularly relevant for Portland State because Portland State is a campus in the middle of the city. It's a campus that doesn't own all of its property. We don't own approximately 30% of the property that's in our district today, and as our district grows, we'll probably own close to only about 60%, so 40% will be privately owned. We're talking about ways that we can use this eco-districts model to set up an ongoing governance, an ongoing communication with our neighbors that'll allow us to do things in a innovative and sort of avant-garde way.
We did studies at the Oregon Historical Society of what was here, mixed coniferous forests, certain soil types, certain little streams, and so we kind of modeled that. And we said there's so much rainfall falling on the site each year, so much that is then infiltrated, so much is evapotranspirated, and so much runoff is there. Could that then be kind of the model in which we're trying to bring our current system back to perform as?
We're really looking at 2 different kinds of projects. Built environment, which is buildings and infrastructure, and then sort of the social dimension, which are really the demand management strategies, projects that really use people and social capital to reduce energy and resource consumption and sort of change people's behavior so that they're not consuming as much.
I think one of the opportunities for an eco-district is to be not just a district, but actually be exported throughout Portland and other cities in the region to become eco-neighborhoods. And once that begins to happen, the opportunities for involving citizens in the making of an eco-district and an eco-neighborhood are very profound. Can we involve students, faculty, staff, and even some of the folks who are investors and residents around the Portland State campus to be involved in the soft flow design so that this doesn't become completely an expert-driven top-down affair, but it really becomes more of a grassroots, I would say, partnership.
Part of the power of both Portland Sustainability Institute sort of broadly taking on eco-districts, and then the way we're framing it up is that it's explicitly a collaborative effort between the business community, local policymakers and within the city, and then higher ed, and the support that students and faculty are bringing to bear on the effort. Having close relationships with the Portland Development Commission and the City of Portland and Metro, who ultimately unleash hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment at neighborhood scales and make policy and set regulatory structure and incentives, having them in the mix right from the beginning is really useful.
It's a very different challenge when you're working within a set of existing buildings and infrastructure and community dynamics to get to ambitious environmental performance standards. So we're really focusing on these sort of enabling strategies of how you mobilize people, how you finance it, what the policy implications are when you're working within this existing system and existing neighborhood that make up the majority of our cities around the world.
The Portland Development Commission's strategic work in industry development includes businesses that design and create products for the outdoor industry, also considered the activewear cluster. One of those businesses is Queen Bee Creations, a small business with big ideas, a commitment to reuse and recycling, and products that range from wallets to bike bags.
Queen Bee itself really came out of my own need for a wallet. So I found some fun materials to work with and made myself a wallet. And that was sort of the beginning of Queen Bee as it's sort of known today. I think that Queen Bee's claim to fame is that we manufacture everything in-house, which is a very rare and unusual thing these days. In addition to that, I would say that the actual product that we create is our claim to fame. It's really recognizable. People, when they see a queen bee, they know it's a queen bee. It has a look that has been consistent over the 14 years that we've been in business. I brought queen bee from Olympia, Washington to Portland looking for a bigger place, a city where it'd be easier to source materials and there'd be a larger hiring pool of talent and skilled people. I love the sustainable lifestyle that Portland has in spades. It's bike friendly. The people who live here are really interested in supporting local business. And when you own a local business, that makes it a very attractive place to live and operate your business. We were really excited when we found out about the development project that we moved into on North Williams Avenue. I had been shopping to buy a commercial building for a couple of years and nothing was really panning out. And when we found out about this development, we were excited because this little chunk of Portland is just packed with businesses that really match Queen Bee well in terms of the item or the experience that's happening that you're buying is being done on site. People from the Portland Development Commission came and visited us at our studio. So they came to us and I think they called us and said, "Hey, can we pay you a visit and tell you about what we do, what we offer to small businesses?" I have looked for support and received it, primarily from the Small Business Development Center and from the Portland Development Commission. Those are the two places that I've gone to get support to help my business both survive and thrive in Portland. And I have found it. I don't know, I can't imagine living anywhere other than Portland. It's a beautiful place to live, and it's hard to imagine anywhere better.
These videos are produced by PDC videographer John Cardenas. If you have an idea for a video for the show, send us an email at video@pdc.us. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we're shooting today at the Indigo at 12 West, an exciting new building that was developed here in Portland by Edlen Development and designed by Zimmer Gunsel Frasca Architects. And today we're lucky enough to have Jean Sandoval with ZGF and Mark Edlen with us to talk about what they're doing here in Portland and more. So, Mark and Jean, your companies share some of the same philosophies and creative energies, and you partnered on this building, but you're doing great work not only here in Portland, but also on the West Coast and around the country. What makes Portland the right place for either of your companies to be?
And for the longest time, the economic engine of this state has always been about natural environment. And I think became a sort of an ethic of the place that we become stewards of this environment because it is our economic engine. So it's easy enough, I think, as we transition in the way we see the environment, that people recognize that. And in doing so, from a firm that's 50 years old that started in Portland, that became a part of the way we work, and it's really tied to our consciousness.
I think for our firm, a real key is Portland and Oregon is extremely collaborative, and we're very fortunate to have the opportunity to work in an environment where we have a very highly talented design, engineering, construction, and quite frankly, the public sector is a big key to making these kinds of projects happen as well. And it's very unique. We get a lot of people that come from out of state to come and visit, see some of the projects that Jean's firm and others have done here, and they continually go away and say, "I can't believe how collaborative it is," where you might have two firms that would be competitors in another environment. In Portland and Oregon in particular, those firms are trying to figure out how to do things better and how to move the needle as it relates to sustainability and design, urban planning, agriculture, and other types of sustainable industries here in the state.
Well, you've brought up some great points that I think we'll follow up on, and one of them is collaboration. And here we are in this building that you collaborated on, and it's really a landmark for green development. So let's talk a little bit about the special features here and how you see the innovations you have here maybe playing out in future construction.
Sure. As a firm, from the very beginning when we started our company, we really pushed on energy conservation in the mid to late 90s when the Building Council, Natural Step, and other groups came together. We really wrapped our arms around that and embraced sustainability in a much broader fashion. We've had the good fortune of having people within our firm, such as Dennis Wild and others, and work with other people outside of our firm, such as Jean's company and others, that have really helped us kind of move the needle over the years and help put Oregon and Portland in a leadership position to highly sustainable buildings. One of the things we try to do with our buildings is try to be more innovative. I like to say that we try to go to a deeper shade of green as opposed to just skimming across the surface and doing some pretty straightforward, simple things. We are always trying to do things differently. A couple things here that I think were exciting for us. Number one is the opportunity to put wind turbines on the roof of the building the first time. It was fun. We went through with Gene's firm, an engineering firm, went through some research, tested a whole bunch of them down at a wind lab in Corvallis at Oregon State University. And lo and behold, after doing all those tests, the one that was most efficient we selected you could buy off of eBay or Amazon. And installed those on the roof, and they provide about 2% of the energy. You mentioned earlier kind of about collaboration. Gene, you were talking about the open environment here. One of the other things we did here is we're collecting all the stormwater, which we did over the brewery blocks as well 10 years ago when we did that. Wanted to reuse the water for our, not just irrigation, but also to flush our toilets and whatnot. And back in those days, the plumbing codes wouldn't allow you to do so. The city officials really couldn't get their mind around it. Well, here we are 10 years later, and the city was actually helping us push the needle, make it happen here. And actually now, because of their willingness at the state level and the city to change some of those plumbing codes, we're now able to reuse all of our stormwater in the building, thereby putting less, taxing our water system less, and also taxing our storm system less here in the city, which is really a win-win. It's a win for the occupants of the building because they're leaving a softer footprint, and it's a win for the city because we're abating some of the demand that we have on our systems.
I think one of the successes of this building is the fact that through all the collaboration and all the creative thinking, that we're starting to give this sense that there is value to the environment. And that's always been the difficulty about this whole sustainable movement, is there seems to be this gap between the value of how much it will take to repair the environment that we sort of harvest. In this building, we were able to leverage all the sustainable feature, all this to an economic engine wherein investors, renters, our staff understood what it can bring and were willing to partake. And I think that's a giant step. Before, one would think of sustainability as just sort of it's like putting a nice rim on your car. It looks good, and you feel good driving it. With this building, there is performance that tied to an environment that people want to experience, but also there's a mindset that, it's good to leave something for our children.
And so when you mention the skills that people have acquired in a building like this, how do you see that playing out in the future as far as building up the green skills that might be exportable or that might draw people to Portland because we have them here?
Well, let me tag. It's really important. Like Marcus said, there was this, actually about 2 weeks ago, there was an article about the new economic engine being the sustainable design and the green environment and the green design. The weird part about this is this notion of green design is not a new thing. It's been around for a very long time, thousands of years, and our forefathers and mothers knew how to connect to the land and to the air. But I think now, because we were kind of short on resources, it's becoming more apparent. And then being in Oregon, we have a lot of ties with agrarian land, with a lot of ties with our natural environment. It was very natural for our industry that are based in Portland and craftsmen based in Portland. They're really much sort of these mom and pop shops that they knew how to do it.
What else would you add as far as the Portland Development Commission's role in furthering sustainable development and just our overall growth to the city vis-a-vis what we're talking about?
I think the future really lies in education. And some of the things that are going on, I think, are truly exciting, from the fact that we have new presidents at each of the major universities in the state, all of which are focused on sustainability, whether it be water, sewage, wave energy generation down at OSU, green science at U of O, or now Portland State University with the Miller Grant, which is just absolutely fantastic. Just announced a new hire from University of Vermont that'll head up sustainability at Portland State University. To the community college system, where we've got people like Preston Poyams that's working on access, creating links from the high schools, where Carol Smith, what she's trying to do over at Portland Public. And I think the first time, or probably the most in my career that I can recall, I feel like the alignment in the education system that I see coming down the road from Portland Public, community colleges, to the four-year system here in the state are so much in alignment. And those young people, I tell people quite often, my generation, you talk about dating yourself, my generation, it was really about Vietnam and civil rights, right? And those that are my age remember that. Today, I think these people are going into these schools and coming out of them It's about their environmental footprint. And that's part of that educational process that I am very, very encouraged about, that is giving new employees to companies like ours that will continue to drive this movement and keep Oregon in the forefront.
It sounds like we have a lot to look forward to from both of you personally and from your companies. So Mark Edlen, Jean Sandoval, thanks so much for being on the show today. And that's our show. If you'd like to know more about the Portland Development Commission's programs to assist industry development and grow green business, or anything else we talked about today, visit our website at www.pdc.us. I'd like to thank Colin Sears for talking with us about PDC's plan to grow green jobs. I'd also like to thank Mark Edlen of Girding Edlen Development, Jean Sandoval of ZGF Architects, and everyone at the 12 West for letting us shoot here today. Thanks too to PDC videographer John Cardenas, the North Portland Media Training Center, and the Scanner Foundation for producing our show. I'm Ann Mangan. Thanks for watching.